All right, digging deeper on Tom Brady's retirement here with one of the best in the business, a guy who's spanned decades here covering the NFL, and Tom Brady, our senior NFL reporter, Pete Prisco. Pete, this is news that we were preparing for, but it still doesn't seem real. Tom Brady retiring from the game of football. Your emerging thought is what?
Well, I think that his family issues and the family, spending time with the family kind of finally won over in this situation. And look, he's dedicated his entire life to playing the game. He's pushed away some of those family obligations. It's just part of being an NFL quarterback. And I think finally he realized, and the family realized it's time to come home and be with your kids and be with your wife. And look, he's 44. He wanted to play to 45, so one more year. What's the difference? And by the way, the Bucs aren't exactly going to be the same team next year if he does come back. So I think that all plays into it. He's retiring as the greatest of all time, and now he can just get on with the rest of his life and enjoy his family time.
Yeah, Pete, we will dig into what this means for the Buccaneers moving forward. I mean, worth it is what you can boil it down to as he comes to Tampa, gets them the championship. But as you take stock of the career that was for Tom Brady, I know it's hard to do because it spanned so long, 22 seasons, so many moments, 7 Super Bowls. Is there a singular moment that stands out to you as a Tom Brady moment, an aha, a this is the greatest of all time, or maybe even something that we don't think of immediately, the 28-3 or perhaps whatever it may be? What's the moment that stands out to you when it comes to Tom Brady?
Well, I just think it's, you talk about 28-3, but there's a lot of those games. I mean, there's a lot of moments in his career that you could put down and say, hey, look, this was a defining moment for Tom Brady. You always knew the game was never over with Tom Brady, and that's the greatness of him. I mean, he had that steely look about him, and when it was time to go, he went. And I can always reference back, I've covered this league a long time. The year he started that first Super Bowl, remember, there was a giant debate as to whether he should start or Drew Bledsoe should start in the Super Bowl. And I'm going to admit right now, I thought Drew Bledsoe should start, and I was wrong. Tom Brady proved to be everything Bill Belichick thought he would be. He proved to be everything that the team thought he would be, and he proved to be what's even better, what he thought he would be. The guy always believed in himself, and he turned out to be a great player. He's the greatest of all time.
Pete, it was an amazing career and one I'm sure we will outline here in the days and weeks to come. But Tom Brady also, as you mentioned, playing to 44, a year shy of perhaps what he ultimately wanted to get to. But that longevity, he's laid out a playbook here that people that play football, that don't play football, the TB12 method have really latched onto as a means to longevity. Do you think we see more of this following Tom Brady in his footsteps, quarterbacks playing into their 40s because there is now a playbook to do so?
Well, it's not just necessarily following his plan. It's just that guys take better care of themselves. I mean, back in the day, you could see pictures of when Len Dawson was in at halftime smoking a cigarette. We've come a long way since those days. I mean, it's just a different mindset. These guys are year-round taking care of their bodies and what they put into them, and hire nutritionists and the training and everything else. I mean, Tom Brady looked younger last season than he did probably in some of his first seasons, and that's incredible. It's a tribute to him. It's a testament to his work ethic. It really is a lifestyle, and he changed it. And I remember having a conversation with Aaron Rodgers a couple years ago. He said, hey, look, I can play into my 40s. I'm going to play into my 40s. These guys feel like they're invincible, and now with all the training methods and the way they take care of themselves, I think it's definitely possible. You're going to see guys playing longer, particularly at that position.
To reach certain levels of greatness that Tom Brady did, timing also has to be on your side. The timing of this is appropriate, that it comes on the eve of Championship Sunday, where we saw Tom Brady triumph so many times and again. But Pete, the timing of this decision here as he heads out of year 22, and you said leaning a little bit more into those into that family dynamic. It also comes on the heels of that would-be comeback against LA in the divisional round, trailing 27-3. He leads his team all the way back into a tie and ultimately loses because of a coverage breakdown or a bad call, whatever you want to point the finger at there in the divisional round. If things don't go the way that they did on Sunday, do you believe that we are having this conversation right now?
Yes, I do. I think this was the end for him no matter what, win or lose. I think he was going to go off and get on with the next chapter of his life. I don't think what happened in that game had anything to do with it. Now you can look at the Bucs going forward and say, hey, Chris Godwin tore up his knee. He's an unrestricted free agent. He's probably not going to be there. The Antonio Brown, long gone. We know that. The offensive line, I mean, Ryan Jensen's unrestricted free agent, their starting center. What do they do there? And there's some age creeping up on the defensive side of the ball. Ndamukong Suh's not a kid. Jason Pierre-Paul isn't a kid. So I think there's a lot of questions about the Bucs. How much longer will Bruce Arians do it? I mean, that's another legitimate question. So I think when he looked at the whole landscape and probably had, his wife telling him, look, it's time, then he stepped back from it and he said, you know what, it probably is time. And I think with everything in play, the entire big picture, he realized it's time to walk away.
The throne is officially vacant, and perhaps this year's AFC title game will go a long way in deciding who will assume that throne. A little nod to your guy, Joey B. Thank you, Pete. All right, let's take a look at some more numbers of the career that was here for Tom Brady. The records, of which there are many. Super Bowl titles, that's a record. MVP, that's a record. Pro Bowls, QB wins, all atop the list. He also exits the game with the most passing yards, the most passing touchdowns, the most passing attempts, the most completions, the most wins as a starting quarterback, the most 3,000-yard passing seasons, the most 20 TD passing seasons. I'm not a halfway through the list yet. The records will stand, and they will read Tom Brady next to them. The GOAT, calling it a career. We'll have plenty more coming on CBS Sports HQ, including a sit-down with one of the voices of the NFL on CBS. Charles Davis up next on HQ.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.